Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are coming from today. I'm Eleni Sommerschield, COO of Wise Agent, and I'm joined today by Tami Bonnell, who is the co-chair of EXIT Realty Corp International. Thanks so much, Tami, for joining today. I really appreciate your time and all the wisdom you're going to share with us today.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah. If you guys wouldn't mind, I'm going to tell you guys what we're going to be talking about, but while we're doing that, if you guys wouldn't mind going in the chat and just posting what city, state, brokerage, and how many years you've been in the industry. I always love seeing where everyone is coming from. We've got people from all over the world that listen in and join in. So that's always going to be fun to see where everyone's coming from and the years of experience that are coming in. Because Tami, you've been in real estate for how many years now?
Well over 30.
You don't look it. and so I love that because you do have such, you are such a powerhouse in this industry. And I know you recently won Risk Media's Leadership Award at NAR, was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And when I was, because we had talked at NAR about doing this webinar, I was like, okay, do we talk to Tami about goals? Because you can't be in the position that you're in as co-chair of a major brand without having had set goals in your life and attain them, or leadership. That was my two things. So I know today we said we were going to be talking about goal setting and planning and strategies, but we'll probably sprinkle in some leadership stuff in there just because, Tami, I really want to get some of that insight from you. And I think a lot of people will benefit from that as well, because you should be planning even, how you're going to lead your team. That should be something that you plan as well.
I agree.
Yeah. So, if anyone has any questions, there's a Q&A section on the bottom of your screen. You can just type any questions there. This is going to be recorded and you'll get it in your inbox. So just, type away any of your questions. But Tami, I'd really love to hear from you, like what, I'm imagining, 30 years ago when you started, you had a vision of where you wanted your career to go. And, but can you share with us, like, what were some of your goals when you were just starting off in the real estate industry?
Well, I've always been in love with this industry. And really in the beginning, it was probably like most people when they first start, that you were attracted to something and you just wanted an opportunity to earn a living. But then the more I got into it, the more I realized how much I wanted to help. And then as I started to move up into leadership positions, I realized that you start finding out where your skill sets are. And for me, probably my strongest skill set is showing people who they can become. So really seeing something in them that they don't necessarily see in themselves yet. And then they start becoming. People become what we tell them they can be. And so that's probably my favorite part of the job. But I love that this is an industry that, can create true family wealth, not just for people that are listing and selling real estate, owning a brokerage or working in it, but people that buy a home. They end up with that level of equity and it really does change the trajectory of that family. So I think it's an industry to be proud of, even though we're hearing a lot of rumblings all over the place. I think we need to keep our eye on the ball of where it is we want to go. Yeah,
definitely. And just even you saying that, keeping your eye on the ball, I think when I think about goals, I always think about, not having my attention being diverted by all the noise that can surround our day-to-day life, right? There's a lot of things that are happening around us in this industry. And it can be hard. It can be hard to try to, mute all of that, but it's something that we have to do.
I think the more clarity you have, for me, and I'll give you just a couple of things that would be my best advice for anybody that's on here, whether you're a broker, manager, an agent, running a team. The very first thing I would do is literally look at where your business came from. Where did your business come from this year and the year prior? Because it'll tell you where you've had some focus and where you're getting some results, because you want to make sure that it's the highest and best use of your time. And then I would put together pros and cons. What do you love about what you're doing and what don't you love? And then set realistic goals so that you're going at it clearly with where your strengths are. And I think that that's so important, of knowing where your strengths are. And then it's knowing what you want, why you want it, how bad you want it usually tells you that you're in the right zone and you're in the right lane. But to me, there's a fourth, and it's probably more important than anything else. And that's who benefits if I succeed. When I can keep a picture of my family in front of me, or I can keep a picture of something that I have a goal that I want to achieve, or that I'm managing and I'm helping all these people get to a certain level, and I have that picture, I can stick with it because I'm really emotionally attached to it. And you really have to have it be purpose and not just production. There's got to be some serious purpose involved. Whenever you get off track, there's two things that I do, because it's easy for everybody to get off track. It's easy for even something else to divert and get in your way. Number one, take 2 minutes at the beginning of the day and close your eyes and visualize how you want that day to go. And literally visualize the whole thing, because the more you do it, and it only takes 2 minutes, not only does it put you in the right mindset, and mindset is 4 times as important as even the activities I do, but because I visualize so often, the day usually turns out the way I picture, because I've been doing it for so long. And whether that's a smile on someone's face, someone signing a contract, or what it is, picturing how the day is going to go, now you start to have a positive outlook towards where you want to go into the day. And at the end of the day, because not everything always goes perfect,
Right.
Literally close your eyes and just close your eyes and ask yourself what worked today, so that tomorrow you're starting off in the right mindset with what's working for you, and you're starting off with the right activities, not the things that didn't go right, but the things that really did, so that you're, again, in the right headspace. We have targets, tactics, timelines, and the last one is tenacity. We got to have the courage to do it. And that's why who benefits if I succeed. But I set my goals, and then I put a strategy together, and strategy is just simply the steps it's going to take me to get there. So often I see people with really big business plans, lots and lots of pages, charts and graphs all over the place. But the most important piece of the puzzle is the action plan, acting on it. So every month, book off 4 hours to work on your life, because your life's important too, and your business, to really figure out, looking in advance, how can I maximize on every one of these moments? How can I maximize on every one of these opportunities? Doesn't matter whether it's interviewing a person, selling a property, doing an open house, every single moment. If I look ahead, I can really maximize. Maybe I can get a couple of appointments out of the same appointment, or maybe I can be in the community that I serve a little bit earlier and participate in something else while I'm there. But it'll really help me to maximize on my time, so that I'm starting to see bigger and bigger results. And Eleni, I think you can appreciate this more than probably most, and that is having a really solid database, so that literally what that database is worth, and you can really see, and not just how many touches, marketing 101, 6 to 9 repetitions of being in front of somebody, but personalizing it as much as humanly possible, so that you're really, every one of your clients, what their dreams are, what's going on in their world, what's going on in their life, so that you're communicating with them the way they want to be communicated with, and you're connecting with them that at least 6 to 9 times, but in a way that they're going to respond to and really appreciate.
Yeah, I love what you said about the mindset, because really, if you're going into anything, I always tell my team this too when we travel, Tami, I don't think I travel as much as you do, but we both travel quite a bit. And with travel, anytime you go into something, right, you're going to the airport, you're going here, you're going there, anything that you're going to do, if you go into it with the mindset of like, oh, this is going to suck, and it's going to be long lines, and my flight's going to be delayed and whatever, it's 100% absolutely going to suck for you. And you're never going to see any benefit for it. I've seen this so many times with some of my staff, and I'm like, you guys, don't think like that. Don't talk about it. Like, if it does delay, like the flight does get delayed, or our luggage does get lost, like that's happened to me several times. Like, what are you going to do? Like, just figure it out. We'll be on an adventure. You just spin it in a positive. But if you don't look at something in a positive way, you're probably not going to have a positive outcome, because you're trying to find that negativity in it. And I think our mutual friend Ki Assad would say, like, mindset is like a huge part of, like, trying to set your goals even, because if your goals are going to be like kind of not going to push you, because you're like, oh, I don't think I could call 10 people a day, I'll only do 3, then you're never going to go to that next level because you're marginalizing yourself. You're not pushing yourself to your limit. I don't know. I think mindset is a huge part of it, but would you have, because I'm looking here through the chats and I see people, that have like 2 months experience and a few of those to 25 years and everything in between. And I think like for a lot of people that are in this space right now, some of the questions that we received before everyone joined were, okay, things are shifting. What should we be doing in 2024? Like, should we have, how many phone calls should we be making? How many people should we be reaching out to? I think everyone's going to have a little bit of a different number, but you have to calculate it still some way where you're not underdoing it, like, oh, I'll just call 2 people and that's it. And,
Well, and I think that it's also looking at where your strengths are. I know that there are people that are tremendous at networking and they go to networking events and they pick up transactions every time they go, right? And that the people that are really involved in their community and they pick up transactions every time they go. There are people that are great door knockers and there are people that are great on the phone. First, I think knowing what you're good at, you're going to have to make more calls or more stopping bys and more networking went early on because you don't have the experience. I highly recommend any experience that you do have, though. This is a perfect time of year to reach out, not only to thank anybody that you've done business with, but to literally say, hey, I really want to up my leadership game. I really want to do an amazing job this year and I want to serve people incredibly. Can you, I really admire you and I'd really love to hear some advice, even some suggestions, maybe what I did well and what you see that you think I can improve on. Not only do people really appreciate that honesty and that transparency, but they'll probably give you some good advice and you could even end up with some referrals out of it by picking up the phone and having a conversation. It doesn't always have to be a conversation about wanting to do a transaction.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is they feel like they have to call several people a day to just say like, are you looking to buy or sell? Are you looking to buy or sell? And it's like, you're not auctioneers. You should be, right? It should be a little bit more relational than that.
Right. I've broken world records in sales and there's nothing fancy about me. And I can honestly tell you that there's a couple reasons why. And number one is I personalize to the nth degree. So I always say I don't sell anything. I just go out and add value to whoever I get in front of. And so if you're thinking from that I have a compound interest in the person that's in front of me, just like in a mortgage, I have a compound interest in the person in front of me, Google them, friend them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn, find a common ground, have a conversation and see if you can add value. It doesn't have to all be about real estate. Yeah. They'll know that this is what you do, but the more you can personalize it, the more you can connect so that it's not all your connections aren't generic. Generic, they're not going to really appreciate. But when you send a personal video and say, I was thinking it's freezing today, which it is where I am. Yeah. It's freezing today. And I was thinking of that beautiful home you have with amazing fireplace. And I hope you're using it today. Now, all of a sudden, I just personalized it and I remembered what was most important to that person. Or this is a tough time of year for them for whatever reason. And I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you today. Or I just went by and I saw this, or sending them a link to a magazine article or something that you just saw that you think this made me think of you. And they just want to know that they matter. And for your platinum clients, the people that have not only done business with you and maybe more than once, but they've repetitively done business, you want to really, really personalize. Another suggestion for this time of year, I always suggest to people that they have a dozen people that work on the business, not in it. Appraisers, home inspectors, mortgage companies, insurance companies, title companies, people that have a perspective so they can tell you any changes they see that are happening in mortgage, any changes they see that are happening in insurance, because we're seeing everything from, the weather changing and houses having difficulty being insured and all that, so that you're a wealth of knowledge. But the same thing with them, make this like your own private BNI group, but the same thing with them, make sure they have an excellent reputation because they hire the individual and they fire the whole company. But find out what their dreams are and what their goals are. And now you have a group of individuals that you can help each other stay accountable. You're having a tough day, you know, when you're up, reach down, and when you're down, reach up. There's an opportunity to connect. Try and connect with them every single month, but add value every single time, because then they're going to want to do the same in return. We've witnessed too many times of people just wanting to get tickets to a game or food from somebody that's a supplier, instead of, look, I want to add value to your life too. We're in the same business. We're in the same boat. You know, share with me what your dreams are. Maybe I can give you a little perspective, and they'll give you a little perspective too. And, you know, each time, whether you're the mentor or the mentee, both are going to learn something from it and grow from that perspective. Another thing on goal setting that I think is incredibly important. I'm a martial artist, and I believe strongly in the mind-body connection, and I believe in pushing every limit. So I'm probably not the best person to, I believe in pushing all your limits and challenging everything about you physically, mentally, just seeing how far you can go. But you also have to be realistic about what time it is in your life. Maybe you're taking care of children and parents. Make sure that the goal is a goal that is your goal, not something you think someone wants for you. If you want to make 100,000 and you think your broker wants you to make 200, but you know realistically, or you want to make 60 because you know that you have kids you're taking care of and parents you're taking care of, and that you have to figure out some sort of a balance right now, because we go through cycles, we go through things in our lives. Be true to yourself. It's so important for you to be really true to yourself and set goals that are realistic, because if you set something, and I don't mean don't shoot for the stars, because I love the idea of shooting for the stars, but don't shoot for something that you know is so far out of range, and with what you have for a schedule is not realistic to do, because then you're going to just be disappointed, and that doesn't help anybody.
I love that you mentioned that, because I know, you know, when my kids are teenagers now, but when they were younger, friends of mine would, you know, I would volunteer at, you know, school and church all the time. And they were like, okay, don't, you know, you should start saying no to things. Like, you have a season, and like right now your kids are little, like enjoy that, because they're going to grow up and then they're going to want you less and less, even though you're going to need to be there more and more. They're going to want to be around you less and less. And, and it's so true. And as I found it out myself, then I was like, oh man, I should have listened, because it was true. They needed me at that time in my life. And now as they're, you know, going off to college and doing their own things, I find myself with, well, just a smidge of time every once in a while. But now, like my husband and I feel like empty nesters on the weekends, because they're teenagers. So they're out on Friday and Saturday nights. And we're like, oh, okay, we've got a weekend to ourselves, where there is that season where you get a little bit of, you know, you have to protect some of that time, because that's something like we all just get 24 hours in a day. And, you know, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. And so it's really important to think of that, because it you know, things can change so quickly and drastically.
I love it. And, you know, I always talk about having a monthly action plan. Halfway through the month, book off 4 hours to work on your business, not in it, but work on your life, not in it too. So book off 4 hours and have everything, your personal life, your spiritual life, where you are financially, and your business life, marketing, public relations, where you have present clients, past clients, future clients, everything all together at once, so that you're literally planning in advance over the whole next month. How can I maximize on all these experiences? What am I getting a return on? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to be speaking to? But make sure that your life is in there too. How can I make my daughter feel like $1 million? She's going through a little bit right now. How do I make her feel like $1 million and let her see the magic that I see in her? And you'll come up with some really great ideas, so that it's really genuine and it's really thought of. It's all about living with deliberate intent. So I have a goal, and now I can measure it every month. You want to make it measurable. And by the way, when you talk about who benefits if I succeed, make those goals visible. Put it on a screensaver, put it on a vision board, make it visible in front of you. Maybe it's a second home that you want to have so that you can enjoy generations. Maybe it's that you want to take a vacation, you have a special vacation that you want to take with your whole family. Whatever you have for personal and professional goals, have it be very visible in front of you. And then on your action plan every month, how can I improve on this? How can I get closer to this? And how do I get so often I see people justify that they get halfway through the year and they're not there. And instead of what needs to change, me or the plan, oftentimes they change the plan when they really need to change their behavior.
Yeah.
And so, but doing that action plan every single month helps you to stay on top of it. But you also get to create wow experiences. What a gift to be able to, when you're planning in advance so that it's somebody's birthday or it's a special anniversary or it's a special event. What if every time I went to an appointment, it wouldn't matter whether it was a listing appointment or what it was, how can I make this a wow experience? And I'm really planning in advance. And I did homework on that person and I found out a few things that we have for common grounds. And I went in and we had this instant connection and it was just, I knew exactly the questions to ask and what to do. We can do all of that if we just plan a little bit in advance. And it doesn't have to be this boring, drawn out thing. When you see progress every single month, you can stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that a lot of times people like, you know, it doesn't matter if your goal is to lose weight or to make more money or to whatever it is, but sometimes, you know, like you're not going to wake up and all of a sudden be 30 pounds lighter overnight. It just, that doesn't happen. If somebody knows about that, please let me know.
I'm not.
Like I want that, but it usually, you know, and you get frustrated, right? It happens so often. You're like, oh, I only lost 1 pound this week. And, you know, but you can't give up on going to the gym. You can't give up on like eating healthy and eating right because you only lost that. You did lose that 1 pound. It's, you know, and maybe you need to do a little bit something different to adjust it to maybe go a little bit faster, but also be realistic. Like you can't lose 30 pounds in 1 week. It's just, that's not realistic. And so setting those things up and setting yourself up for success sometimes is overlooked, especially when it comes to finances, because you think like, well, I just, you know, by the end of this week, I need to make $100,000. And it's like, that's a lofty dream. Like, I wish you all the best, but it might not happen, you know, and like, there's a lot of work that needs to go into it that you have to do. Like there's that sweat equity, you know, like you got to put into it, like you got to dial the phone, you got to go out and see people. And you have to do, there has to be some action. And I love what you said about earlier with the database. I think a lot of times people think, you know, realtors specifically think, you know, I have, you know, 2,000 people in my database and I've got, you know, but I need more leads. I need more people in here. It's like, are you taking care of the people that you already know? You know, like take care of them. Like what you said about, you know, researching them and making that connection, I think is so important and so overlooked so often with, you know, and, you know, I always love these webinars because they are education based, and I try and sprinkle in some things in here about wise agents. So like one of the things that you can do, because you were mentioning like go on social media and see what they're about. Like we have that lead automation. So when you have a contact in your database, you click a button, or if it's a manual entry, and it will go out and scrape social media for you to find out like their LinkedIn profile, their Instagram or Pinterest or whatnot. Facebook can be a little funky, but sometimes Facebook as well. And now you can, and it's not about like stalking to see like, you know, how do they live or what do they like, but it's more like, well, what are their interests? Like, are they saying like what their favorite movie is? And so now you have something to like, and maybe it's a movie that you enjoy as well. So it's some kind of conversation starter, because you got to start somewhere. You can't it's hard to just reach out to somebody that you don't know anything about to start up a conversation. So I think it's a good tactic to have some kind of, you know, not really surveillance, but going out there and just checking up on them and seeing what they're all about and to be able to connect.
I do a lot of validation for when we have potential franchisees and, you know, we have regions that people own and that kind of thing, or, you know, top producers that people are working on bringing into the company. And I always research them before having a conversation. And, you know, every once in a while, someone will say, wow, you know a lot about me or something like that. And I say, because I care enough about you to make sure that I know who you are so that I'm relating to you the way that I think would be best to relate to you. And then they're completely set at ease. You know, it's not a stalker mentality. It's just that I want to have that knowledge so that I can serve you to the best of my ability. And I think people actually really appreciate that. And that homework really does make a difference. We saw so many people that were during the pandemic, because transactions were happening like crazy, and it wasn't even controlled chaos. There was a tremendous amount of chaos, right? With people paying over asking price, you know, waiving the appraisal, waiving the home inspection. Now they love their interest rate, but some of them actually don't love their home. So it's a great opportunity to pick up the phone and go have a conversation. But that it turned too transactional, and it really needs to be transformational. How can we transform your life? Most of the time people move because of their circumstances, and there's something life-changing in their life right now that is making it so they're moving, becoming empty nesters, getting married, getting divorced, you know, moving to a different neighborhood, relocating, whatever it is. But the more you have of information for them up front, the better you can relate to them, and the closer you're going to be able to get to being able to do something. And from a happiness standpoint, solid relationships, even Harvard Business Review did a study, and solid relationships is the most important thing for all of us in order to have happiness. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, and really it boils down to when you're reaching out to somebody and you can relate to them, it's an easier way to start that conversation than just like starting picking off like in random things that you aren't sure if it's going to stick or not. And so when you do a little bit of homework in anything that you do, you invest a little bit of that time in there. I think it just makes for the return that much bigger. And it might not happen like where they go through a transaction right away, because I think we get a little transaction happy where it's like, oh, this person they got in my database, they're going to buy or sell right now. And it takes time. It takes time to forge those relationships and to build that trust in that. And everything else that goes into it. No one just reaches out to a realtor expecting that same day to like sign an agreement and like put money down on a house. That doesn't happen all in one day. Very rare, at least, right?
Right. But I think that when you build those relationships and you strengthen them on a regular basis, and you connect and you communicate with them, not just on their anniversary or their birthday, although those are important dates, they're very important dates, but on something, it could even be, you know, and social media is perfect for that. You know, you just saw that they just lost a pet, or that this is a tough time of year for them, or that they're trying to make a decision on something. And you can reach back out and make a suggestion. The more you know about them, you're going to communicate a little bit closer to the way that they prefer to be communicated with. And, you know, I call it speed dating for real estate, but it definitely helps you to get a little bit closer to being able to do that business. And that's why picking up all the knowledge from having the sturdy dozen, all these allies that work around you too. Now that's another reason to pick up the phone and call somebody, right? Yeah. It's another reason to have communication or a connection. Something could be changing in their neighborhood. I live in a fairly rural area in Massachusetts, which there aren't lots of them, but it's horse farms and apple orchards and that kind of thing. And these are really old farms that a lot of them had an in-law apartment that typically the people that worked the farm, my house was built in 1890, the people that worked the farm lived in the apartment, right? And then the people that were running the farm and owned the farm lived in the main house. And then as their kids grew up, they went into the main house and the parents went into the apartment, right? Yeah. And they took over the farms. And someone came in and the planning board changed so that they wanted to make all of the properties that had under 800 square feet for this, for the in-law, they over 800 square feet, they wanted to make them 2 families. And these were fairly good sized homes. So they weren't 2 families. It was an in-law apartment, and it impacted the value of the properties. And then somebody came in a couple years ago and changed it back, and it increased the value of their properties anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 a property. And I went into an office and shared with them what transpired, and only one person took me up on it. And it impacted 539 homes, I think, and they took 49 listings in 1 week. 1 week. because they just told them how much more their properties are worth. So paying attention to your planning board and municipalities to see what's changing, paying attention to these allies. Now I have great reasons to pick up the phone and call. I have great reasons to connect with you. And it's not always, when do you plan on moving, or do you have anybody to refer to me?
Yeah.
Usually then you're top of mind for them. And they're really appreciative of the fact that you just added value and added insight to what it is they're asking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I live in Arizona, but we have a great relationship with Florida Association of Realtors, and I get their emails every day. Every day, Florida Realtors sends out an email, and they have, I think it's just once a week, their chief economist has a little section in that newsletter that comes out. And there's something that, that he talks about what's happening in Florida. I mean, I would love to see more and more people take some of the content that your associations are providing, your brokers are providing, your coaches are providing, your ancillary, people that are supporting your business, your lenders and your title reps and everybody else, and then give that information out. Because as realtors, you go through these transactions, a couple of dozen times a year. Most consumers go through that maybe twice in their lifetime. So they don't know all the ins and outs. They're not in the industry going to all these different events. I think a lot of times we keep some of that information for ourselves, but we think that it's common knowledge because a lot of the people that we know that information. And a test that I even do for my team here is I tell people, okay, give me directions to go from the office to your house. And 9 out of 10 times, I will not get to their house with the directions they've given me, because we do it so frequently that it just is, we miss a step. Like you miss usually early on steps, like which, way to get out of the parking lot, which direction you're going in, because you do it so frequently. It's for you, you're like, oh, I always go out this way, but I go out that way. So I thought I had to make a left going from here. I would get it at a different spot. So being able to communicate the things that realtors do a lot of CE classes, a lot of designations, there's a lot of different speakers out there that speak on trends and technology, taking some of that and then relating it and giving it back to the consumers so they can understand what's happening specifically for them, not generally speaking. Then that's where like all that magic happens, because now you become really truly the advisor for their wealth and for their family.
I suggest often people asking somebody, what are your real estate dreams? Because you have no idea. That person might want to invest, have a kid, buy a condo, and by the time they're grown up, all of a sudden it's worth enough so that you can put them through college without having to go into a fund. But you don't know unless you ask those questions. I was speaking in DC a couple of years ago, and it was right when the opportunity zones came in, and it was pretty much under the radar. And this young man was going on a listing appointment, and there were 4 people going on the listing appointment. It was right before COVID. And this young man was going on the listing appointment, and I suggested that he ask why the gentleman wanted to list his home and what his real estate dreams were, and look him up. And he looked him up, and he owned a business, and he was roughly in his 70s. And so he asked him when he planned on retiring and what his real estate dreams were and why he was asking about listing the house. And he said, you're the only person that asked me. Everybody else came in with all these comps and showing me what the value was. And he said he just wanted to know when the most opportune time was to sell, that he was planning on retiring within a couple of years. He wanted to move closer to the ocean and a little further south. He wanted to own a couple of investment properties, and that he was planning on selling his business in a couple of years. So he shared with him about opportunity zones. He actually referred him to somebody so that he could look down towards the waterfront now, while it was still worth money because it's waterfront. He ended up doing 7 transactions with him in 2 years' time, because he bought short-term rentals. He bought bought a home that he was going to retire in, that he was using as a vacation home. And he waited 9 months to list and ended up listing it much higher than it would have been listed before. And none of the other people asked them effective questions. So, keeping all those notes in your database, right? Keeping all those notes so that you have it and it's accurate and it's active and it's in front of you. And then if you are going to reach out, look again so that you, and not just look at what you took for notes, but look through if anything's changed between Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera. Look again so that you really are current, not just focused on where you ask them about their dreams, but also current tense, what's going on in their world. And they're just going to appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that can be said for so many times when you're doing that transactional type of business, and you don't really know, do they have other homes? Do they have, what are their dreams? What is happening in their life? And you don't know some of that, you miss opportunities. I know of an agent that had, did a transaction with a family, never talked to them again. And, 7-8 years later, they meet this family again. She doesn't remember who they are, but they remembered her. And, she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of remember that transaction. And the family was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, so are you guys selling that house or what are you doing? They're like, no, we have 4 other investment properties. We want to get this other one as well. So she missed out on 3 other transactions because she didn't really follow up with them. And so a lot of times, if you're not asking, like, what are your goals? What are your goals, in finance, and your financial dreams and everything else to your clients, your database, then you can lose out on things. Just for that.
There's no doubt about it. And I think that opportunity to be able to really communicate and connect. Another thing that I think works while you're doing this planning is, not only reaching out to everybody as you're ending the year, which hopefully sets you up for starting to do things next year, and, sharing some of your goals and asking if there's any suggestions from these people in what's going on. But you have a huge, this database, you've got to really look through and see all these people that you need to make sure that you're communicating with and connecting with on a regular basis. And I really do think people miss out on that. Follow up and follow through is 50% of the problem. Most people don't follow up and follow through on a regular basis. They joke around, and we've all heard the statement that, you're dating and then you get married, and then the day after the closing, you get a divorce and you're not with this person anymore, instead of following up and seeing how things are going. And are they enjoying the home? And did they do the things to it that they were thinking of doing to it? And, do they love where they are? Are they enjoying the neighborhood? Whatever it is that you had down for those priorities, to stay in touch, not just the standard things that everyone does. Birthdays and anniversaries are incredibly important, but so is the other stuff. And personalizing with video at least a couple of times out of those 6 to 9 repetitions, I think, is so important. But I find most people drop the ball on following up, and just what we went through already with all the information that you're getting from all of these allies and all of the news that you're getting in, and all your continuing ed credits and everything else, there's a reason to pick up the phone that doesn't have to do with a transaction, but you could be pleasantly surprised that there is a transaction on the other side.
Yeah. And I think, if you're looking through your database and you're like, oh, okay, I know that they have multiple properties, and right now, their kids are off in college or whatever, something is, they posted something about, they're becoming empty nesters. That's a great opportunity to say, hey, do you want to talk about what equity you have in your home? And because they might have something, they probably already have something else there, another property. Those are the conversations that you should be having and not losing out on that. And so it's knowing and keeping all of that data in that one central location, so you get a really good picture of who everyone is, and then moving them around. I think I get insights from my team on what's happening on our database on a high level, right? And I don't see a lot of movement from one category to another. Once, there's a lot more movements from statuses, but even from categories, like they were, past clients, or they're, or they're this prospect or that, or whatever it is. You need to constantly, move them around. They shouldn't be static and stagnant.
Well, you know what, another thing, and it's a great exercise, is connecting others. So you have people in your database that you could connect with someone else. And it doesn't matter whether that's somebody in construction that might be a great person for helping them to rehab their home, or that they have the same passion towards a charity, or it doesn't matter what it is. I've connected people that have ended up working together. I've connected people that ended up getting married. I've connected people that ended up doing joint ventures together. Yeah. You have this huge database of people that I'm positive there's somebody that could come to mind of, you know, who should I be connecting this person with? Who do I know that would help enhance this person's life? Maybe it's my daughter has juvenile diabetes. Maybe it's connecting them with somebody else whose child just was diagnosed, so that they can walk them through the process and help them to understand, so that they don't feel like they're by themselves. There are just so many opportunities for us to add value. And I think that's the real question. Where can I add value today? Who can I connect that they maybe could add value to each other? And it's pretty amazing that utilizing that database, not just for hunting, right? How can I connect to others? How can I add value? How can I just reach out, because we need to make sure that we stay incredibly human during the process. And then all of a sudden you'll start to see that it's going to explode. They're referring you other people. And when you add in the knowledge base to it, you know, if you got paid, and that's really what you should be thinking about. If you got paid by how well liked and how well respected you were in the industry, and what the results were that you delivered to people, honestly, what would you like that bonus to be? Because it sounds like it's this really tough thing. And I'm not saying it's simple as pie and that, you know, the business is going to just flow through the door nonstop, but the more you're reaching out and communicating in these ways, the more you're going to end up with business. And you're also going to be in that great mindset, because you know that even if you didn't do a transaction today, you helped someone today. You added value to someone, or you added value to your community.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. How, you know, what you said about, you know, much bonus would you get on how well respected and trusted you are in your field. I think that's a great way of looking at things too, because that's something that, you know, you should have that number. I think that's, you know, knowing your numbers is a big thing. I mean, I know, at least for me, you got to know your numbers. If you know what your numbers are, then where are you going? What direction are you going in? You have to know that, right?
Right. And you know what, while you're talking about numbers, you know, you should be giving yourself a fiscal checkup every single quarter, right? Giving yourself a fiscal checkup so that you know where you are financially. What are you getting a return on that you're investing in? Maybe you're doing a marketing thing that's not giving you a return. Where are you getting a return on your investment? And not just financially, but time-wise. Yeah. And where are you spending the money? Where are you putting most of this time? And where are you personally financially, so that you're aware of it all the time, and you've got it in front of you. You're looking at what are you going to invest in that's going to give you a return on investment, that's going to help you build your business and help you grow. But then you need to go back and make sure that you're making it measurable. And so what are the things that you're going to do? What are you going to invest in yourself in order to get from point A to point B? If I'm making 60,000 and I want to make 100, or if I'm making, and you know, here's the rough numbers. If I make 50, I can make 100. If I break 100, I can break 250. If I break 250, I can make 500. If I can make 500, I can break 1,000,000. But you have to mentally wrap yourself around where you are right now first, and then get to this next goal point, and then get to this next goal point. Every once in a while, there's a wild rush in real estate that somebody gets by it accidentally because there's a crazy year. But being realistic, if I look in those directions, I know that I can get there. So then I need to make sure that I'm investing in myself education wise. I'm investing in myself business wise, so that I can be seen and heard by that many more people. What are the things that are going to give me the biggest return?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you have those measurable, you know, quantifiable things in front of you, those numbers in front of you, where you can say, okay, I spent this much on this, you know, Facebook ad or whatever. I spent this much on doing pop buys, or I spent this much time doing phone calls. Which one of those brought me the most return? Then you just press the gas on that, whatever that is, instead of like just trying to do everything all at once, and then you don't know what's working really. Then you're working against yourself sometimes.
Right. And that's why in the very beginning of this conversation, I suggested look at where your business came from, and not just 2023. Look back to 2022, look back pre-pandemic if you've been in the business that long, and look at where the majority of your business came from. Is it coming from personal referrals? Well, then you know that you're activating that database really well, and you're making connections and you're communicating with everybody in a terrific way. If it's going to networking events, then you start to see that that's happening, or you're doing community events and you're doing a coat drive and all of us, or you're participating in school or sports or whatever it is, or if you're the best door knocker in the world.
Yeah.
Look at where that business is coming from. Some of those allies, I mentioned having a dirty dozen. Each one of those people is probably good for 2 transactions a year if you treat them like gold. Add value to their life, help them achieve what they have for goals, and they're going to automatically want to help you. And they're going to give you education that gives you another reason to reach out to the people that you're already serving or that you want the opportunity to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I just had heard somebody tell me, oh, the person they have as a painter, that they refer a lot of clients to paint their homes when they're getting ready for listing. He gives her business about 5 or 6 transactions a year because people want to paint their house before the realtor comes in and gives them, they want to clean up stuff. So, finding whatever that is for you, where you can find somebody that can help you in that direction. I love that. I know we had some more questions here on, we've talked a lot about some of the goals. What do you do, Tami, when you are, you've got a goal set and you're kind of like stuck? You're not like something's not. And I know maybe this hasn't happened to you. I think you're a pretty motivated person. I know you now a few years, and but what do you tell people that are like, okay, I want to reach here, but I'm burnt out. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of lost. I'm flailing. I don't know what to do from here. What advice can you give our audience on that?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple things. First, visualize yourself succeeding. Really picture yourself succeeding, because you can put yourself into that headspace. Picture, because you want to make sure that it's the goal you want to achieve and that it's something that you really want to do, right? And picture yourself achieving that, because when you have that visual in your mind and you can see yourself smiling and you can see that the results of whatever it's going to be, that there's going to be all happy people at your office, or that you're going to be able to purchase that home, or that you're going to be a lot more financially secure, whatever those things are, make it as visual as possible in your mind. And it only takes a minute or two. I'll give you a great example. I'm in training to become a master in Taekwondo. So by December 1st, 2025, I want to be a master. And so when I ask myself, and this goes back to it too, of asking yourself those effective questions, what do I need in order to achieve those goals, right? And so for me, I know I need more speed, power, and snap. So I'm walking 15,000 steps a day, because less Tami means more speed, right? And I'm also power. I'm doing weights. I was doing weights a couple times a week, and now it's 3 or 4 times a week. I'm doing weights every other day, and that's giving me more power, right? And more power is going to give me more snap so that I can get there. But when I'm really struggling and I don't want to go into the dojang and I'm exhausted and I've just got off a plane or whatever's going on, I close my eyes and I picture myself literally at tea ceremony, receiving my belt, taking off my other one, and having the grandmaster put it on me, and I'm in tears. I can picture it, and so I know it's going to be worth the sweat. I know it's going to be worth the sweat. And if you can picture your kids going to a school that you've always wanted them to go to, or you've pictured taking them on this special trip that you've always dreamt of, and that nobody in your family's ever had the opportunity to do that, when you can make it as visible as humanly possible, it definitely helps you to stick with it. But then go back into the steps. What are the things I need? Maybe you need a mentor in your office and you need to talk to somebody. Maybe you need to talk to your manager and just say, I'm really stuck right now. Here's what I want to accomplish. And maybe they can help you with the right activities that are going to go in that direction. But don't stay by yourself. Reach out, whether you reach out to somebody that's going to be a person that's an accountability partner, and you're going to keep each other accountable, or you're going to reach out to a coach, or you're going to reach out to a broker or a manager or somebody that you really admire in leadership. People that I know for sure, because I've witnessed it with you, Eleni, people that lead like you, they love helping other people. They love being able to give the advice to somebody else and share something, and then seeing them take that advice and run with it. Don't stay where you are, and definitely don't stay by yourself.
Yeah, I think when you and I were talking about this in Anaheim a couple of weeks ago, I said to you, I tell my kids every single day, I'm like, if you're not better today than you were yesterday, go back to sleep and try again. Like you like go back to bed. You did it wrong. You have to have, I'm a pretty, I do set goals. I can be pretty tough on myself at times, and I need to get a little bit better at not being so hard on myself. But I think, when you see progress, even though it's small, it should be measurable, and you should see like there was growth. I saw this. I saw, my bank account go up a little bit, and it went up a notch, and maybe it needed to go up 2 notches, but at least it went up a notch. So I'm in the right direction. I just need to push a little bit harder, find the time or do whatever it is. I think a lot of times, it's time, like time is one thing that can be a challenge, that we just don't have an infinite number of hours in the day. That's where it could be, where it could be a challenge, where it's like, you got to get it. And that's where that focus needs to come in and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and time blocking for me is something that I just have like on my calendar. I have, every Monday, because I'm like, Monday mornings are always, those are always the big question marks of the week for me. Like what's happened over the weekend that I need to take care of on Monday morning. So I block out my Monday mornings, 2 hours every Monday, that I just don't schedule any meetings. That's like my time to catch up from things on the weekend that may have happened, or, finish up something that I need to finish up. But I block that off, and that's like my sacred time. And I do that throughout my week, because that's something that there's things that I have to do. And if I don't carve out that time to focus on it, I won't get it done. So
I love that. A couple things that I do. Number one, I book off an hour a day for what if, because there could be a lot of what ifs, right? Something could hit the fan, which we've all witnessed. But it also could be that I end up with an opportunity to do an interview that wasn't available yesterday, and now I have a what if in my schedule. So it gives you time to catch up if you don't have something that happens with what if, but it also gives the opportunity, if there is something that's going on that's difficult that you got to work on and you got to handle right away, you have the time to do it. But it could be something great, and I've actually had more times that it's been something great than something not. Yeah. I've always heard, and I believe it to be very strongly true, if you make 2 presentations a week, you'll be average. If you make 4 presentations a week, you'll be above average. If you make 6 presentations a week, you'll break world records. And so I make 6 presentations a week, but I actually book it off a month in advance. I might have to move the time a little bit. It might be Tuesday at 1 instead of Tuesday at 10, but I already have it booked off, and I have it so that I know I have those appointments booked off. And when I can get across and finish it, and I know that I did those 6 presentations, even if I'm doing one on Saturday afternoon, I know that I stuck with my target, and then I can look back, and even if things haven't come together yet, I know they're going to, because I'm doing all of the right activities to get there.
Yeah. I know we don't have much time, but something you said kind of reminded me of another one of our friends, Bernice Ross, where she, we talk a lot about it. Awesome Females, an event that Tami, you and I both attend. We talk a lot about like, work-life balance. Just as women, we talk about that, and Bernice has corrected me several times, and I think a lot of us several times, where she's like, it's harmony. It's a work-life harmony. It's not always going to be a 50-50. And I know you've even shared in that as well, where you're not always going to have like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 hours with my kids, and then 4 hours at work, and then 4 hours with my spouse, and I'm going to get everything done. It won't ever equal. It's not going to be equally spread out over a short time, but over the long run, then it will become equal. And I think that's something to keep in mind. And I love that I know you've shared that, and that's been something that stuck with me when you said that a few years back.
Well, I wanted to add to that, just if there's anybody with kids that are 18 and under, and it doesn't mean because my kids are older that I don't spend time with them, because I definitely do, but it's different ways, right, that you're spending time. But what we always did is Sunday was family night, even if it was just an hour that we were all having dinner together. And I would ask my kids what they'd like to do this week. And Megan might want to go to the library. William might want to lift weights. Shane might want to go on a hike. But whatever they wanted to do, I'd say, I'll do it this week. I didn't commit to Tuesday at 3 o'clock because I might end up with a presentation Tuesday at 3 o'clock, but I would say, we'll do it this week. And so I didn't have to break any promises. And that worked really well. And that goes back to that harmony, right? That it's not an exact balance. I did it as quick in the week as I possibly could, but I didn't have to break any promises. And there were some times when I was running up the library steps with Megan at 5 o'clock on Saturday when they closed at 6, but I didn't have to break a promise. And the other thing is, find a common ground. It doesn't matter what that common ground is, that you have the love of reading books, that you love playing board games together, that you all bowl. For my family, it's martial arts, and we did martial arts for 15 years together, at least 3 times a week. And that's really tough on a travel schedule. But, you know, sometimes it was Monday morning at 6 a.m. and Friday night at 7 and Saturday morning at 6 a.m. But we kept it so that we did it 3 times a week. And that uninterrupted time in the car on the way there and the way back was just as valuable as the time that we were there. So just a couple of things that, just for, you know, as you've gone through it, none of us have been perfect our whole life, that's for sure. But if we can all give each other a few little pieces of advice that might work and might help make life a little bit easier and get rid of a few more minutes of that mom guilt, it's probably not such a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, you definitely did give me that. I love that advice that I heard from you years ago. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to do this. And I have been there at the library like 5 minutes before they closed. And I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to make it. And, you know, you stroll in like you run in like a crazy person, but it was, it was that time. And then it's those memories and that, you just get that, that burst of laughter for, whatever is going to happen next. Cause something crazy will happen, but it ends up being, good for everyone all around. And so, thank you for that from me personally, because I know, Tami, that's been something that, like you said, that mom guilt sometimes, tends to be a little thorn in people's sides sometimes. So hopefully that helps and resonates with some of you all out there. Thank you so much, Tami, for sharing all this information and all this wisdom with us. I really appreciate your time and everything you've shared with us. I hope you all have as well. I know this is going to be recorded and put in everyone's inbox, but hopefully we can catch up soon, Tami. I wish you and your family happy holidays if we don't talk soon. And then, and for you all, I will be back December 13th on the webinar. We'll be at Triple Play next week. My team will be at Triple Play. So I'm going to take that week as a little hiatus week to get some stuff done, but I'll see you guys back in a week or so. Thanks so much. Bye.